On BBC Asian Network and indeed elsewhere. You're listening to Amal Rajan. Thank you so much for your time and for tuning in this morning. We're talking now about a subject, well, which we all care about, racism. It's a delicate subject and one that isn't usually directly linked to the Asian community. An American writer called Dawood Walid has written an online article about racism in Muslim communities, but I want to open this topic up and hear from you. I want to make it a broader subject, a broader discussion about whether or not Asians are racist to each other. Have you ever faced racism from another Asian? What was said? Get in touch. I want to hear your stories. You can call us on 03459 440 445. Text us on 81869. Message us on WhatsApp 07920 500 200 or email the big debate at bbc.co.uk. Text is probably best, 81869. Just before I introduce my guests to discuss the subject, I should tell you that there is some breaking news right now, which is that Thomas Mayer has been found guilty by an Old Bailey jury of the murder of Labour MP Joe Cox. He was a 53-year-old who you'll recognise through court drawings. He was a 53-year-old who shot and stabbed the mother of two in Birstall in West Yorkshire on the 16th of June in that week before the EU-referendum vote. He shouted Britain first, denied murder but chose not to give any evidence in the court, and he has indeed been found guilty. Let's speak about Asians and racism for the remainder of the show, and I've got to introduce the wonderful blogger Anisha Bhavnani, who's a campaigner for dark skin, Salam Jones and Kieran Samuel, who believes that Asians are not racist. They're here all on the phone to discuss this with me now. Anisha, Salam and Kieran, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Anisha, can I start with you, if that's all right? To what extent, in your experience, I think I'm right in saying that you're originally from Bombay, as I still rather flagrantly call it, or Mumbai, I should say. To what extent do you think that Asians in India, where you're originally from, are racist towards other Asians in if you like, from other parts of the South Asian community?
So I would agree that obviously not all Asians, but there are definitely some Asians who are racist to other brown people as well. So I have been quite dark-skinned, especially as a young girl, because I used to play a lot in the sun. So even in my school, there were girls who would tease me for being really dark. And this is like a brown school where there are like brown people everywhere, but like you would still see these hints of racism in places like that. And also like there is the ideology still exists of like North Indian people looking down on South Indian people, especially because of their color.
Yes.
So even though like Mumbai tends to be like a melting pot of like almost every place in India, so it may not be as prominent in Mumbai, but you can definitely see it in North India especially.
And do you think
I would think.
Do you think that this is all compounded by the Indian caste system, which adds another, if you like, layer of classification and therefore an opportunity for discrimination between Indians? So that's within India. But do you think that caste system does add another layer?
I feel like that's like another whole like complex thing that we can think about and talk about for ages, like, because the caste system would like change a lot of things in the way we think about. But I feel like one of the main things would also just be the media. Like if you were to just like base it on skin color, because we're constantly bombarded with fairness creams and how fair is beautiful and dark is ugly. So I feel like especially like for the modern contemporary like youth as well, and even like especially like also the older generations, like it is the media that plays a really big role.
And do you think, Anisha, just to be clear, you think that dark skin, there is still a prevailing assumption within India, do you think, that dark skin somehow connotes some sort of something negative, that light skin, i.e. looking a bit more Western, is a way of seeking approval?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it may not be so, even like, it may not be that explicit. In most cases it is, but even when it's not explicit, I can see that it is implicit and people do think that. And like, you have like creams and stuff to make yourself. So even like educated people, like, or uneducated, like everybody will use a fairness cream, or they'll use a cream that doesn't say that it's explicitly fairness, but that makes
But that's actually what it is. So they won't necessarily admit to it, but that's actually what they're doing. I can see that.
I would think that it's definitely implicitly always there.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly that is a form of racism, because it suggests there's a soft pressure to look slightly different. Salam Jones, you're a campaigner on these issues. Do you think it's fair to describe Asians as being inherently more likely to be racist towards other Asians or people of other backgrounds altogether?
In my experience, and this is based on me running a matchmaking service for the Bengali community.
What's that matchmaking service called? Go on, you might as well get a free advert out of it, but I'm interested.
It's called Beau, Beau, French word for beautiful.
Beau, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and but in our experience over the last 3 years, we have noticed that when we get new brides, new grooms come up sign up with us, the very first question the parents tend to ask is the bride beautiful? Beautiful meaning, is she fair? So about 6 months ago, I did this campaign called Dark is Just as Beautiful, and basically I took 12 very dark-skinned, very beautiful women, did a photo shoot, did a small video, and then just launched it out on social media just to raise the issue of the fact that dark skin is just as beautiful.
Yes. But how did that go down?
It was received quite well, actually. Yeah, I mean, it was. I know there are a lot of campaigns in America. I know there are a couple of campaigns in America. There's one major campaign by a couple of Sri Lankan sisters, and we wanted to do something from the British side, British perspective. It went well. It went down very well. It was shared, nationwide, really. So yeah.
But what is it, Salam, about? I mean, you obviously have extensive dealings with the Asian community. What is it about your experience of the community which makes them more likely to be sort of willing to discriminate, do you think? What is it about the Asian experience that says, is it the fact that, within Asia, there's still just a huge amount of natural stereotyping? I mean, obviously, it seems, some people might say, in fact, some callers might say it's ludicrous to generalise, but I think there is a feeling, isn't there? There is a feeling that actually, to a certain extent, people from different parts of the South Asian community are willing to look at national stereotypes, are willing to categorise people in a way that's not very friendly.
Absolutely. I myself, I'm fairly dark, so I kind of grew up with it. I'm the darkest out of all of our siblings, and I grew up with it. Like the fairer ones are prettier, they're better looking. They're more likely to sort of get the attention, as it were. I've not really had a struggle, but that's probably because I'm a man. However, I know for a lot of our women, even today, there is still that struggle within themselves to sort of, they're constantly striving for approval. No, it is there. Personally, I'm not an educated man, but I would suspect that it has very, very much to do with a colonial mentality.
Yes.
When the British were there, if you were dark skinned, you were considered to be a lower class. You were working out in the sun clearly all day long. You didn't have the luxury of an umbrella. You didn't have the luxury of a servant holding an umbrella above your head all day long to shade you from the sun. So yeah, you got dark, and if you were dark, you were considered to be the poorer class and not as good as,
Amazing that you sound so incredibly articulate and eloquent, Salam, and yet you're saying that you're not an educated man. I'm just a bit taken aback by that. What you mean by that is you didn't necessarily excel in academic qualifications, but you've met with success in other ways in life. Is that? I mean, I think you sound extremely well educated, frankly.
I didn't pursue the path of conventional education.
Okay, yeah. Well, you remind me of one of my favourite, though I completely disagree with it, one of my favourite quotes from Bob Marley, where Bob Marley said, "Me and I have no education, me have inspiration. If I was educated, I would be a damn fool," which is Bob Marley to a T. Listen, just before we go to Kieran Samuel, and who's in London, and I want to speak to you in a moment, Kieran, I just want to read out this text from Ali, who's from Leeds, who says, I grew up in Dewsbury and grew up in a multicultural society, lived happily with Indians and Pakistanis. I'm from Azad, Kashmir. When I went to college, I and my friends experienced loads of racism as we speak Mirpuri by the Pakistani people in Huddersfield. Racism from the Pakistani people in Huddersfield, who mostly originate from Faisalabad in Pakistan. It's still prevalent today. And then here's a text from Raj. This is Raj from Kent, not to be confused with Raj from Birmingham. One of the two Raj from Birmingham is involved in today's show. This is, "Hi, Mo. The biggest subtle racism that will never leave our Asian society is the caste system." Yeah, exactly the point I just made a moment ago. "It's imbibed in us Asians, and the sad thing is it's projecting onto the younger generation." I'll just skip a moment. It says, "A friend of mine married a girl from a lower caste. His family and friends disowned him, and they had to move from the area that he lived from birth." Is this really Sikhism? Is this really what Sikhism stands for? Asked Raj from Kent. Well, as you say, maybe we can't tar everyone with the same brush. Let's go to Kieran Samuel. Kieran is in London. Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm actually in Edinburgh.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me. I'm being ludicrously London-centric. Kieran, it's nice to speak to someone in Edinburgh. What do you think about this idea that Asians are, as one blogger has put it, Asians are more likely to be intrinsically racist, whether to other Asians or to anyone else?
I don't believe that at all. I think I agree with you when you say you can't tar Asians with the same brush. It's like saying all white British people are racist or Welsh or Scottish people are racist, which is not the case.
I wouldn't say it's all of them. I wouldn't say it's all of them, but there might just be a tendency within a community. There might be. I mean, you know what? In the time that I've been doing this show and loving doing this show, I do get the impression there are parts of the South Asian community who are very, very quick to generalise, who are very, very quick to castigate and to dismiss whole swathes of people. And I would go so far as to say, Kieran, forgive me for doing it, but I would go so far as to say that they are more likely to do that than other people who I grew up around, whether from a white background, black background, or wherever.
I tend not to agree. I think maybe I've been lucky, possibly. I don't know. But on what Anisha was saying and the guest you just had on the owner of the Bow campaign, I think it's important to bear in mind people of fair skin would like to be more tanned as well.
Yes.
I'm married to Scottish. My husband's Scottish, and he gets a sunbed before we go on holiday. So it can go in either direction, I think.
Yeah, and there's going to be a happy medium. I wonder whether or not my son Winston, who's got an English mum and an Indian dad.
It's our constant chasing of beauty and, the most beautiful. I think that's a separate issue. But I come from an interracial family. Other cultures have been accepted in my family. We've got Hindu, Scottish, Welsh, Swedish. My family have been excited about learning about the other cultures, and people married into our family have welcomed our culture with open arms.
Okay.
It's been really nice. But I do think there are some racist Asians. I think they need to really figure out what they want from their citizenship in the UK.
Yes, exactly.
If they want to be considered as equals, they need to stop excluding themselves or thinking they're different from everybody else. I don't think Asians or any other group of people should get special treatment because of their skin colour.
No, of course not.
Same with religion. It's personal choice.
Of course not, exactly. Can I just come back to Anisha Bhavnani, who's originally from Mumbai, or should I say Bombay? Anisha, when the sort of discrimination that you hear discrimination takes many different forms, doesn't it? And you were talking about the fact that people wear kind of lightening skin creams, and that's a kind of subtle form of racism because there's an implication that, being whiter, to put it bluntly, is better. But there's another kind of discrimination, which is the caste system, and then there's another discrimination again, which is the whole business of Hindus and Muslims within India and Hindus in India and their attitude towards Pakistan. Would you say that your experience of India is one where or Mumbai, is one where people are very happy to generalise about Pakistani Muslims or about Muslims, even if they're Indian?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I would like to talk about something that Kieran Samuels mentioned.
Yeah, sure.
He said that there are also people in this country who want to get tanned, and so basically maybe it's just like grass greener on the other side. But I feel like that's difficult to compare because the sort of connotation that being white has and wanting to be tan isn't the same as the negative connotation that being dark is and wanting to be fair. I feel like it's for two completely different reasons as well, because I feel like I probably can't explain it perfectly.
Well, I think you probably can. You're sounding very clear.
Okay. So I don't think that it's quite difficult to compare the two because I feel like they stand for two completely different things. And wanting to be tan and wanting to be fair are two. They're it's so complex to understand that you really can't compare them. But coming back to your question, I would definitely think that there are a lot of Hindus in India who are quick to categorize Muslims and Pakistani Muslims as well. And it's just I feel like this is something it's an issue that has gone on for quite a while now, and I know it's going to go on for even longer.
Yes.
But I've been pleasantly surprised coming here because at university I have friends who are Pakistani, and I completely I enjoy my time with them so much because it's almost the exact same culture but two completely different countries, and so you don't really hear about how the governments are warring, and you hear about how the military is having issues, but you don't really hear about the civilians.
Yes.
So for her to come from Pakistan, my friend to come from Pakistan, for me to come to India, and for us to have a successful friendship is quite nice.
Yes, I think it sounds really nice. I think it sounds really nice. I think the idea of people getting along with and having friends from very different backgrounds is a lovely idea. Salam Jones, can I come back to you and ask whether or not you think, how long have you lived in Britain, Salam?
Oh, God. I've been here. I was raised here. I grew up here. I came here at the age of 5.
Okay.
So I'm now 46. So yeah.
46. Okay, so 41 years, so a long time. Do you, in your experience over 4 decades in Britain, is your sense that multiculturalism, which is this policy of like celebrating differences, of allowing people from different communities to cohabit, some people would say it's gone too far and they exist in parallel lives, but do you think that multiculturalism has almost kind of encouraged a kind of racism where people are leading more and more separate lives, and we're talking about what we have that divides us rather than what we have in common, which is maybe what the approach of somewhere like America might be? You might be more likely to talk about the fact that people are American regardless of background, rather than in Britain where maybe we play up their kind of group membership or their minority status.
I think multiculturalism today is a much better society that we live in than the one in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s. I think racism still exists amongst the or rather the white population. However, it's a little bit more sort of discreet and hidden. It's not as open and as in your face as it was, say, 20 years ago. But I would like to go back to a point raised by one of your other callers. And there is a thing. I mean, the thing about dark skin and fair skin, there's a huge difference between a white person wanting to be darker and a dark person wanting to be fairer. I mean, without wanting to sort of, cause a kerfuffle, but the very term white privileges comes to mind. When you have the stigma attached to being dark, when you have you've been made to feel inferior because of when you've had marriage proposals refused because of the color of your dark skin.
It's a very, very different thing to saying that you're white and you want to be tanned. Yeah,
I'm a little bit pale. I would love to go out in the sun and just get a little,
Yeah, exactly, and get a nice tan in the sunshine. Do you know what? Incredibly annoying, because this is the problem with time. It seems so consistent and it always seems against us. So I'm so sorry, we've got to leave it there. But you know what? That's that issue which Kieran Samuel in Edinburgh, you mentioned about the difference between people who are pale wanting to be darker and people who are dark wanting to be lighter is an incredibly interesting one. I think we'll come back to it. But we're almost out of time. You've been listening to the BBC Asian Network. It's just coming up to 3 minutes to 1.